that Jordan Peterson's whole thing was like reaching out to disaffected young men and like actually like trying to reach them. And, you know, I'm more than grateful for that guy because he really.
Well, it was that until they didn't agree with him politically. That's what it became, because he worked for the Israeli Wire. And you know what he did? Basically, he attacked the very people he was supposed to be the voice for and called them demonic troll demons because they disagree with him politically, because they said mean things. They made fun of him. They're Anon accounts. They're troll demons. They need to be silenced.
He did change my life, and he changed so many young people's lives.
Yeah, me too at the time when Jordan Peterson was the culture, but then he fucking fell off, and it became clear to all of us that he was a fucking hypocrite, that he really doesn't care about young men.
Lives, like,
that was just his claim to fame.
Michael Heiss and I talk about this all the time. Like, it really was kind of like a political revolution in some ways, because like the context was that you had so many left-wingers telling young men that like their very nature was toxic.
Yeah, it was a cultural revolution.
And you had Jordan Peterson saying no. But then he turned around, and as you pointed out in our last podcast together, he went on Rogan's show and he basically tried to attack you and Daryl Cooper by hitting them with Nick Fuentes and saying, like, Joe Rogan, like, what guidelines do you have when you invite guests on the show? Like, what about these groypers, even though you never invited Nick on before? And what
Not yet.
we were talking about was like,
one of these days, bro.
You know, like, it was incumbent upon him to invite Nick on the show and actually talk to him. And if he actually believed that Nick's ideas were bad, what he would do is try to defeat them. And, you know, something that I've been thinking about is
Yeah, that was the right-wing narrative, bro.
That
was the whole claim. That's why young people went to the right, was because it was supposed to be transparent. It was supposed to be about open dialogue and open conversation and ideas fighting each other in the marketplace of ideas. But the fact that all these fucking people are hypocrites and engage in cancel culture when somebody goes against their beliefs and they know that they're going to lose the debate, they do the same thing that the leftists did. And it's disgusting, and we all see it, and that's why these people are falling off. That's why none of us believe a fucking word they say anymore. They've lost all credibility.
Time, whether he believed in God. And a lot of like people rightfully, I think, like, were criticizing him because it felt like he kept meeting like this spiritual wall. Like he just couldn't do it for some reason. Yeah. But then he did say this really profound thing one time where he was like, you know, it's hard for me to say that I actually believe in God, because what does belief mean? He's like, you know, belief is kind of like indicative in your actions. And he's like, if I believe in God, like, my actions would, you know, like, I would act in a certain way that indicates that I do believe in God. And I was thinking about that, and I'm like, dude, like, if you believe that Nick Fuentes and like his ideas were so parasitic, and you were also someone who believed that these right-wing men needed to be reached, like, if you actually believe that, you would talk to him. And I think like the role that you and Tucker have filled is kind of like actually like practicing what you preach, and you've reached out to these this kid, Nick Fuentes. And again, here I am saying kid, but he's 2 years older than me. But I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, it's not just Nick either. Like, if you do believe that like the worst temptations on the right could come out in the next few years, like, you want to talk to those guys. You want to talk to his audience. And I can like attest to just how prevalent.
That's the only way to destroy his ideas, is to defeat them and to prove that they're wrong. That the problem is they know that they're wrong, and so the only weapon they have is to try to silence them, to try to attack anybody any way possible that agrees with them, whether it's making sure that they can't become employed in any political institution. They will use any weapon that they can other than debate, because they know they'll lose.
He is right now among the young generations. Like, every young person my age or younger knows who Nick is. They see him on Instagram, they see him on Twitter, and he's everywhere right now. So it is like very important that I think people try to reach out to them.
Yeah, of course. I mean, obviously, right? Like, and you can't deny it. He's huge. He's one of like the biggest. He might be the biggest. I don't even know. He's up there just in general.
He
might be
5 million followers on Rumble.
Dude, and the fact that he's done it without with being like one of the most canceled, censored people, and without like, you know, I mean, you could say he started doing all these shows now, but he started doing all these shows after he got huge. You know, like, he really, I guess maybe he did stuff with some other guys who were big, Andrew Tate or something like that, but like, he really built his thing in the dark on his own. And yeah, I mean, how would you know, just accepting all of the other
Well, that's how you know it's real too, bro. And that's part of the appeal as well.
Stuff that Jordan Peterson always stood for. How would you not just conclude that, like, well, the job here is to have a conversation with him?
You said the same thing in a vacuum, yelling into the void for a decade, and then finally broke through, bro. That's why people love Nick. Because you can say whatever you want about him, but you can't deny that he's real, bro. That he practices what he preaches, that he believes in what he's talking about.
Look, I don't know. I don't want to say anything negative about Jordan Peterson. I look at him and I weirdly, like, I've gotten to sit down and do shows with so many of the people who I love and admire, and things that were like, yo, this would have been a dream to do Ron Paul's show and to do Tom Woods' show and then to do Joe Rogan's show and to do all these, Tucker and all these people. Jordan Peterson weirdly to me feels like the show I should have done that's never going to happen. It's like the one that got away. It was like, I really wish I had sat down with that guy at one point, because he's the one I feel like I could have like gotten through to. I could have been like, no, but you know this already, right? Because I could just use his own logic to be like, you have to be the one to have these conversations.
But the problem with Jordan Peterson, and like, I wish him the best, bro. I hope he gets better and everything. I don't want anything bad to happen to him, but I think part of the reason why he has all these autoimmune things is because he has a very guilty conscience, because I think deep down he knows he's doing the wrong thing. And that's sad, bro, but I hope he comes back and, changes his tune, that he goes through the crucible and finally has a change of heart, because I think even he knows deep down that what he's doing politically is wrong, how he's moved away from the people he claimed to be the voice for, and how he's not even willing to talk to somebody like a Nick to get through to, young people and try to really figure out what the best way forward is. But yeah, I hope he gets better, bro. It sucks that he's sick again, but like, a lot of us have lost all respect for him simply because he's fake. He's phony. Maybe none of it was ever real, is what it starts to look like.
And, in a weird way, isn't it? Don't you remember, dude? Because this is your coming of age time. You remember how all the guys in the like intellectual dark web, like all the Brett Weinsteins and Jordan Peterson, Brett Weinstein, by the way, I think has done great through all of the major tests of the last few years. But
and he's getting better too.
Yeah. But Sam Harris and like all those guys, and it would always be about kind of how we're going to have these conversations. They're going to be controversial. And, they would talk about how we're against identity politics on the left. And almost all of them to a man. I remember Jordan Peterson saying this. I remember Konstantin Kassin saying this. All of them would say, hey, look, one of the worst, or maybe even the worst parts of woke leftism is that you could trigger the...
And listen, I do agree with the fact that identity politics isn't the way. I'm not really for the identity politics part of Nick's message, and yeah, I get it. Like, it does make some sense, but his narrative. But I think a lot of evil things do happen under identity politics. But the problem is that none of those people practiced what they preached. They talked about how identity politics is wrong, and then they're all Zionists. Like, how does that make any fucking sense?
Response.
Like, if we're gonna do identity politics, why wouldn't we just take our own side? I don't think it's the way to go. Hopefully we can correct that part of it, but of the Nick's political message, and hopefully we can, fix these things. But yeah. Of
some crazy shit on the right. And I certainly made that prediction too. I'm sure you did. I'm sure, it was a very easy prediction to make. I made it on Rogan's podcast. I said once, it was like a viral video where I said, every time I see a tranny giving a lap dance to an 8-year-old, my first thought is, what the fuck? We got to start killing these people. And then my second thought is, not literally, that's a joke. And then my second thought is, we're going to live under a right-wing dictator in a few years,
Yeah.
And so, but everybody kind of saw this coming. And then when it starts coming, it's almost like they all react like it's something they couldn't have possibly foreseen. And where is this coming? So it's always just been strange to me that they didn't have the reaction of like, okay, yep, this is exactly what we thought was going to happen. Let's talk about all of this. Instead, it's like they have the same attitude the woke left had with those guys and just want to cancel and ruin all of them. How's that going to help anything?
Yeah, I agree. I was saying years ago that like there's almost this thing where like if the left continues to call you racist or anti-Semitic or whatever, that eventually young right-wingers, especially like online right-wingers, were just going to accept it and say, fine, yeah, that's what I am.
Yeah.
And, it was like the OK symbol or whatever, when the left said that it represented white power or whatever, like obviously the thing that young right-wing men were going to do is just tout the white power symbol around and try to mock these guys. And then you had Jordan Peterson, unfortunately, like with the Crisis King thing, he was like saying, like Crisis King is becoming an anti-Semitic moniker. And it's like, I kind of then resented that because I was like, well, obviously that's what it's going to be used as.
Yeah, and why would he attack that, dude? Like, isn't he? I know he's not like a Christian, but isn't he supposed to be like Christian leaning?
From now on, as a Christian, like I think that like that's just a terrible thing.
Yes, I agree. And look, I completely agree with that. I respect that opinion as a Christian. I mean, what a crazy thing to tell a Christian that that's an offensive statement. It's like going, I just like nothing against you, but I don't think the crucifix is fucked up. Like you shouldn't ever do that. You're like, well, that's a big part of our whole thing. So I get that completely. But one of the things that to me, the way I look at it, and I guess this is the way I analyze politics. Like this is kind of almost like the key to the secret of what has made me whatever level of success I have, is that I just judge you by how you handle a storm. Liam, like you know my stuff well enough to know I've talked about this a lot. It's like, how do you handle a storm? When a storm's going on, when it's the craziest, that's what matters. Like who's good when it really matters. And with that one, it felt like Jordan Peterson just caved to the storm. The Brett Kavanaugh one was a big thing. I think that damaged his credibility. It's like, wait, what? You just said he should resign, and your rationale was like, because everything's so crazy, it'll calm down. And at the time, it was like, well, then you resign. What are you talking about, dude? Like this is so there, and the thing I always try to like caution people to this. It's like there will be moments, they seem to be like happening more and more frequently, but there are moments where just like crazy things are going on. Everyone's freaking out because there's the new thing. And in those moments, that's when it's most important to like just be calm and try to learn something from what's going on. And with that same, not that it's exactly a storm, but the rise of Nick Fuentes, I guess the storm would be him going on Tucker Carlson's podcast and the whole reaction to that. But in this moment, I try to stay humble enough to go, what can I learn from this? Like, what is going on? Like, man, look, I had Nick Fuentes on my show years ago, and maybe it's kind of hard to believe that I rose up the way I have over the last 5 years, but it's really hard to believe that he rose up so much further with taking the most, the views that any conventional thinking would have told you would prevent him from ever succeeding. And just that alone is like really interesting. Think about that for a moment. What's going on here? And like it seems like there's a strange, when everyone gets into these moments of hysteria, there's a very bizarre lack of interest. Like, aren't you interested in what's actually happening here before you just want to label it and just like squash it or you're like, okay, look, I get that impulse, especially with Nick Fuentes.
I like Dave Smith, but bro, like this whole, I get what you're saying, and yes, I agree. But that's for people who are operating in good faith. Do you think Ben Shapiro is operating in good faith? Do you think any of these people are? No, of course not.
But I guess even to me, one of the things that I've kind of been thinking about for a while, or for the last couple of weeks while this has all been going down, is like, hasn't it kind of revealed in a way something? Like when the Overton window gets stretched to accept Nick Fuentes, which, like it or not, has happened. Like that's not an opinion any of us get. No one gave that to Nick. He stretched it himself and included himself in it, which is crazy to our entire understanding of what the Overton window is. Like you're telling me the Overton window now includes someone who says Hitler is awesome? Like that's a pretty crazy development. Now I know everyone could be scared, but let's think about that for a second. And then as I'm thinking about that, I watched this what I've been calling Genocide Fest 2025. Where all the worst people in the world, Mark Levin and Randy Fine and all these people are speaking, and Brandon Tatum and all these.
I kind of think a Nick Fuentes might be somebody like a Putin was in his country, where Nick has made his own luck. He's made this happen himself with no help, while being condemned by everybody. Nobody helped Nick get to where he is. He did it all by himself. And so I think he's kind of one of these unique people who grabs reality and just beats it until he gets what he wants from it.
These guys.
That's kind of what's happening.
As I'm watching Mark Levin, it kind of dawns on me that he is Nick Fuentes. Like there is no difference. Like it's just, like what I'm saying is that, actually Nick Fuentes is probably better, but what I'm saying is that when you hear Mark Levin, he's doing his thing, he's not like making an argument, Liam. He's not going, look, now you think that central banking causes this, but actually I think a planned economy, he's not making the argument for why the war actually was a good idea instead of a bad. He's like, listen, you little puny Nazi punk. You think you scare me? You're going to have to come through me. We're going to squash you like a bug. I'm just saying he's doing a shock jock, talking shit thing. And in a weird way, you go, what's the difference between the two of you? Right. Other than, and I shouldn't even say that.
Well, I don't think that's true. I mean, Nick is sincere in a lot of ways, and he makes jokes. That's the difference. But the difference between Mark Levin and Nick is that Mark Levin feels so entitled to everybody doing exactly what they want, what he wants them to do, because he's a Jew and he feels like he's superior to everybody else, that he thinks he can just bully you until he crushes your will. Nick doesn't do that. I mean, yeah, he's made edgy jokes, but there's a difference between being in front of everybody where everybody can see and yelling into a vacuum. It's a different thing.
Yeah, because the difference, I guess, is that Nick is still saying, hey, I don't want violence against anyone, whereas you're advocating violence and you're getting the violence that you want. It does, like,
Nick's a Gen Z kid. I'm a Gen Z kid, and Dave is a boomer or whatever he is. I don't know. How old is Dave? Something like that. He's an older guy. These older people just don't understand the spirit of Gen Z. Like, we want to say things and challenge the norms simply because you're not supposed to say it. And that's really what it comes down to. It's taking power back over something that we were told is wrong.
I got to say, even to myself, I go, why the hell is it that Mark Levin should be inside the Overton window and Nick Fuentes shouldn't? Because I'll tell you, Liam, I got no good answer to that question.